I'm happiest in the saddle.
A fellow sportsman.
I am an FBI agent!
Great Scott!
What do you say we cut the chit-chat? A-hole!
Dogs and cats living together. Mass hysteria.
Come with me if you want to live.
Hello, and welcome to Retro Ramble. I'm Charlie McGee.
I'm George McGee.
And this time we are jumping back to the 90s again. It is 1991, and Kevin Reynolds giving us Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, with Kevin Costner, Alan Rickman, Marianne, whatever the rest of her name is, Morgan Freeman, Christian Slater, Brian Blessed, and there's even a cameo from Sean Connery, and I know there's other actors I've forgotten.
There's a lot of people in this film.
This was a big movie. So, George, what can people expect in this episode from us?
Well, we're going to be covering the delicious Alan Rickman. We're going to be talking about some dubious geography, about
some dodgy accents.
Dodgy accents. Well, we always talk about dodgy accents. Usually they come from us. We're going to talk about that bloody song. So yeah, there's a lot to dive into in terms of the production, some alternative casting in Coulda Woulda Shoulda.
And we might even touch on some DVD extras at some point featuring a former Bond. But yeah, people who...
That's not Sean Connery.
But there is a link. So if you've listened before, you know what to expect. For those who haven't listened before, quick disclaimer, George.
Okay. So Retro Ramble, we are a film podcast. Charlie and I are brothers. This is all about us going back and revisiting the films that we grew up with and seeing how they hold up now. Have they stood the test of time? What made them so great in the day? Have they been remade, rebooted, etc.? Does it have a Netflix series? So yeah, it's sort of analysing these films. We're going into them in depth. So there will be spoilers from the very off. There will probably be some bad impressions, but we aim to entertain. So it's a light-hearted podcast with some trivia thrown in and some opinions from yours truly. But we hope you sit back and enjoy the show. It's a nostalgia trip, baby.
Yeah, and this one's a family film, but don't let that think that's going to make us hold back on the Yeffin and Jeff. Because, there are some amazing performances. I'm looking forward to going back to this. We've both gone back and watched this, given this a rewatch. If you haven't watched this in a while and you want to get, maximum output out of this podcast, maybe give it a watch. If you watched it recently, that's fine. But I am looking forward to just getting shot in the heart by Kevin Costner or Bryan Adams, whichever's more reticent.
Both of them had amazing mullets.
Let's not get onto the mullets just yet. There are quite a few mullets. It was the 90s.
Style at the time, and I'm talking about the 12th century.
Okay, so without further ado, let's jump into it. 1991, Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. Enjoy the show.
Enjoy.
A time of war. A time of homecoming. A time of tyrants. A time when the only way to uphold justice was to break the law. He gave the people the courage to fight. The one man who stood for freedom became a legend. Kevin Costner, Morgan Freeman, Christian Slater, Alan Rickman, and Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio. Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
Nottingham. Period piece.
Galloper.
Not trying to be Monty Python, but in some ways Monty Python is better than this. No, in many ways. Anyway, so George, before we jump into production chat, I think a good place for us to start is on the first memories, because I remember that we went and saw this as a family. I'm pretty sure we did.
Totally.
I was 11.
It was a big family event, from what I remember. I mean, it's one of those few films that I remember us all going to see as a family. Like, I mean, obviously,
the five of us.
All five of us, yeah. And probably one of the last, I mean, it sounds a bit sad, but like, yeah, when I sort of think about it, I mean, there was maybe, I think we all went and saw Jurassic Park together. But I remember Mum and Dad just raving on about how good Alan Rickman was.
Yeah, they loved it. It was like Panto. And looking again from 2021, there's a lot of it still is Panto.
Yeah, and I remember Dad talking about how, you know, Kevin Costner's ridiculous accent, you know, just playing it as an American. But yeah, I think we all had fun. I remember I roughly remember the TV ads. It was a big summer blockbuster. There was a lot of hype around it. It was pretty much, you know, it was that, and it was the same summer as Terminator 2. So,
but if you're not going to see Terminator 2 with your family, then you're going to take them to see this.
Exactly. And I think it's one of those things that are people of a certain age, i.e. our age, I think everyone, you know, it was that film that everyone went and saw at the cinema. And the same as, you know, Jurassic Park, everyone went and saw it. It was inescapable. And I think that's why I say people of a certain age, there's so many lines and moments that you're so familiar with because everyone's seen this film at least once.
Most of them coming from Alan Rickman, but I remember
all of them coming from Alan Rickman.
I do remember that. I remember it being I don't know. I just know that it was a fact because I know that we wouldn't have all gone to see it separately. I can this and as you say, it was when because we now still go to the cinema, we say family events, but it's just you and I dragging Dad to watch Star Wars or Spider-Man.
What's going on?
What's going on? Shut up, Dad, you'll love it.
I thought Darth Vader was dead. Dad, it's a prequel.
Yeah, so that's kind of our family outings now. My mum and sister, our mum and sister advised it, but this had something for everything. It had Kevin Costner and his mullet for the ladies, and if you were slightly younger, like Sophia, you would have Christian Slater. So yeah, it's had something for everyone. Very a sign of its time, and so I mean, this in terms of first memories. Let's look at what it was up against. George just mentioned Terminator 2. I think arguably, probably our most favorite films of all time. One of the best science fiction films of all time, and it was out that summer. I mean, it didn't get to the UK until later. I can't remember what was going on with Robin Hood. I actually would argue that they both came out the following summer. I don't know if that's right, George, I think.
No, I mean, I think that they both would have come out that year in the UK, probably just maybe like a month or two. Or back then.
Could it have been no, it wasn't, because could it have been a Christmas film?
No, I think we looked into it. It was still a summer release. So it basically came out 30 years ago in America. So in June, end of June. That's the reason why we're doing it. It's 30-year anniversary. And I think the UK wasn't that, because it was such a big hit, and it was usually the bigger hits, they weren't that, because of piracy, they weren't that much apart. But I think it still would probably been a month or so.
And then that obviously
the number one US smash hit.
Yeah, and speaking of number ones, a guy who had struggled for years, whose wife had taken up jobs or girlfriend so that he could keep on. I'm going to have a hit, darling. I'm going to have it. Did you know that about Bryan Adams? He worked for like 10, 15 years with a band, solo artist, and nothing stuck. And then he had this. And his career
was he not a hit before? Like, was he must have been fairly, this wasn't his breakthrough hit, like Summer of 69 and
no, but it was his breakthrough time. It was like he really took off.
It was his peak.
he got this movie deal off the back of that. I think it was Waking Up the Neighbors. I think that's the album. But he'd had something like 7 or 8 albums before that did nothing. So you say Bryan Adams, everyone knows who he is. And he's, I think, probably in many countries, I don't know, he's probably been knocked off that spot, but he was... I
think he still holds the title. Still holds the title in the UK.
Like in Newcastle.
In Newcastle, especially, he's still number 1.
Still number one. So well done, Bryan. Well done.
Well done.
So yeah, I mean, it was a crazy time for movies. The 90s, we've talked about it before on this podcast. This was billed to be a blockbuster, and going back now, we've just been talking about our first memories, but I get the feeling this was very much designed to be that blockbuster. It had all the elements and the stars, so many stars. So there's probably a bit we can talk about in terms of what else was going on in Hollywood at the time. So George, how, why, and where did this movie come from?
So let's jump back to August 1989, so 2 years prior, where British writer-producer Penn Densham, he had a pitch for a new take on Robin Hood. So obviously, Robin Hood is, one of the classic tales. Everyone knows it. There's been countless reiterations from the very start of cinema, but his promised to be a new take, and his elevator pitch or one-line pitch was Robin Hood a la Raiders of the Lost Ark. So he wanted to break away from that traditional account of Robin Hood as the swashbuckling hero. So, most famously embodied by Errol Flynn in the late 1930s. Hello. And he wanted to sort of like almost like a gritty reboot for the 80s and 90s.
This film is gritty. Very.
So he wanted it to be, that traditional, almost like the stereotypical thing that Robin Hood Men in Tights took the piss out of, as in the tights, the peaked cap, the merry men and everything. So this was, like at the time, a gritty reboot. So they wanted it. So he was reimagining it as a hero that was a rich kid transformed into a socially conscious rebel by his imprisonment in Jerusalem during the Crusades. So he wrote an outline with his producing partner, John Watson, not that John Watson that we know. And they pitched it to the production company, Morgan Creek. So they were quite a small production company. At that time, they had only produced Young Guns, future Retro Ramble film,
God.
no doubt.
Classic.
And baseball comedy Major League. And apparently they saw gold on the page and immediately funded the film to get ahead of the competition. Because at that time, there were 2 other Robin Hood films in production.
Wow.
So you may remember...
I forget about this. I remember there was another one. I do know there was 2.
Yes, so there were 2 when this was being produced, but one fell by the wayside. So one was being made by 20th Century Fox, starring Patrick Bergin, which made it to the screen, but mostly in most territories. I think in the UK and maybe some of Europe and Australia, it made it to the cinema, but everywhere else it was a TV movie with Patrick Bergin, Uma Thurman, and Jürgen Prochnow, which was just called Robin Hood. Remember, he was the man with the tash, Patrick Bergin. I think he was the bad guy in Sleeping with the Enemy.
Oh, I know him. Yeah.
No, towels not like this. And the other film was by TriStar Pictures, but that fell apart, ground to a halt. But at that time, in sort of 89, 90, Morgan Creek were in a right panic, like, this is a great script. We need to get ahead of the competition. So before even they'd secured a star or director, they sent John Watson to and Penn Densham to England to scout for locations and crew. So that's how desperate they were. But it seems like they were desperate to secure a big star. There, like Morgan Creek saw this as their breakout, hit. So they put a $50 million budget against it, and they were desperate to get Kevin Costner. Because if you think about it, Kevin Costner was hot.
He was off the back of Field of Dreams and Dances with Wolves.
So I'm just going to go through Kevin Costner's filmography from... Actually, I'll jump back a bit. So basically, Kevin Costner's breakout hit was a film called Fandango, and that was a coming of age comedy produced by Steven Spielberg, but it was written and directed by a guy called Kevin Reynolds. And the two Kevins, Kevin Reynolds and Kevin Costner, had met, I think, at film school, and his directorial debut had helped launch Kevin Costner. Then, so Costner went on to, I think, 1987, The Untouchables and No Way Out, 1988, Bull Durham, 1989, Field of Dreams, 1990, Revenge, which is a great Tony Scott film.
Brilliant film. Yeah.
1990 as well, his own Dances with Wolves, which apparently Kevin Reynolds had helped direct a few key scenes for. And then off the back of Dances with Wolves, he went straight into this and then had JFK lined up straight after. So he was, basically
in his element.
The shit. He was like the number one property, biggest actors of his time. So I think Kevin Reynolds has openly admitted, he said, he apart from Fandango, he had co-written Red Dawn. He'd done a film called The Beast, which was, I think, starred Jason Patrick, set in Afghanistan, that hadn't made any money. And he said, I'd done 2 films that hadn't made a dime, but I knew the production company wanted me because of my connections with Kevin. So they basically hired Kevin Reynolds in the bid that it would get Kevin Costner, because apparently Costner, when he first saw the script, turned it down. But he then I think he says in the behind the scenes features, Costner says, I wasn't particularly interested, but when Kevin Reynolds came on, I was like, well, this actually could be something really interesting.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's very interesting that they were part and parcel. And yeah, I was very aware that, he's a great actor, Kevin Costner. And I think you mentioned 2 of our favorites. He had that amazing year. What did you do the same year as No Way Out? There was No Way Out and
Untouchables.
Untouchables are 2 favorite, probably, Costner films for 2 very different reasons. And they show his range. They show what he's able to do. And then shortly after this, he would have, JFK and The Bodyguard. And so it's weird that he had these roles where, I don't know, I think there's something about it in all of the roles he's played and the amazing actor that he's at. It's just looking back, one feeling I got from watching this was, I'm not sure he was the best choice for a swashbuckling Robin Hood, and they tried to go down a different route, and that's my only criticism of this film. Is like, I'm thinking about who else at that time, so I'm looking forward to Coulda Woulda Shoulda George. I'm thinking it was always a Costner movie.
The thing is that Kevin Costner, he's a fantastic actor. He's very earnest. But the thing is, he's Kevin Costner in every film. He's that gruff, earnest, determined, honest sort of person. You rarely get him playing sort of, I don't know, sympathetic, shady. I mean, I don't know, maybe he might be schlubby. I mean, Tin Cup, that's a great film. I just thought that's schlubby Kevin Costner, but he's very much that, the Elliot Ness, the guy at Field of Dreams. It's the guy trying to do right. And this, it is Kevin Costner playing Kevin Costner rather than being a character.
But there's so many other characters in this. He's a big character, and he was at the top of his game. It's just interesting to see who he's up against. He's got Psychic Simon. He's got he's got Morgan Freeman. And off the back of Shawshank, I'm guessing. Or
no. So this is 3 years. Shawshank's 94. So this is early Morgan Freeman. I think it was when he was very much an up and coming supporting actor. So
he's physical. He's kick ass in this.
Yeah. Well, that's it. I think this is probably the first film I saw Morgan Freeman, and it's amazing to think how much. I think obviously since Shawshank, his career has just grown and grown. That he's become a very reliable actor, but I think it was a bit of a left field choice at the time.
Whose voice do you imagine when you think of God? It's just exactly. Morgan Freeman. Yeah, but I think, and there's Christian Slater. We will talk about Alan Rickman in a moment. But, you're talking about this, how did we get this film? It seemed like they approached Kevin Reynolds. It was the Kevins. Kevin. Somebody else.
Two Kevins, and obviously the two Kevins would go on to make the troubled blockbuster Waterworld in '94.
Send money, please. So what else is there to discuss in terms of production chapters? Because are we going to have to talk about, I mean, there's the geographical sites that are all over the place. Where was this filmed? I'm guessing.
Yeah, so I've got a list of locations now. Again, this is it sort of harkens back to first memories, because obviously there was a lot of buzz from us growing up in Northeast England because they were filming in the Northeast. So
up near Alnwick. I think a lot of it was filmed around Alnwick.
Well, I thought there was a lot, but looking into it, there's obviously there's the infamous scene where after 4 months traveling from Jerusalem to England, he says, by nightfall, we'll be dining with my father in Nottingham on foot, going via a Sycamore Gap, the famous tree at Hadrian's Wall. So yeah, they obviously filmed.
Don't worry about that.
So they obviously filmed up at Hadrian's Wall, which isn't too far from where we grew up. They also filmed Marion's Manor, that's up at Hulme Priory, which is also in Northumberland. So I think that's Alnwick Way. But everything else was filmed. So there was some filming in Yorkshire. So Aysgarth Falls was where they did the river fight scene. But yeah, I had this, and it was just
I thought all the castle scenes were done at Alnwick.
No, so Locksley Castle was in Wiltshire. I think I say all the Marion stuff that's in Northumberland, but I think actual Nottingham Castle, some of it is second unit was done in Carcassonne in France.
There you go.
And then I think the rest of it was a set at Shepperton. I think it was Shepperton. So they actually, that main courtyard is all replica where the finale is.
Yeah.
I think that's all built at Shepperton Studios.
No, I was just wondering for some of the panoramic shots, because there's one, it must be Carcassonne, where you can clearly see it's the side of the building.
But I remember growing, like when it came out, someone saying, and it was, I say before the internet where you could just make up bullshit. Someone saying, "Oh yeah, my best friend, brother's cousin, someone that we knew that owned woods up in Alnwick was like, oh yeah, they've created Sherwood Forest in Alnwick, and my mate could have totally like had that as his treehouse, but they had to take it down for health and safety reasons. And it was actually filmed down in Buckinghamshire. It was nowhere near.
So sharp with your power. But
obviously, we didn't know then when we were kids. We just knew that some of Robin Hood, if not most of it, had been filmed up in Northumberland. So we just, took it for granted.
So let's talk about they are going for a certain aesthetic with all of the costumes.
There's some great costumes.
Grainy. But I'm saying it looks very realistic. It's like trying to portray what Middle England must have been back then. There's a lot of attention gone into
a lot of heavy robes, a lot of studs.
Yeah, no, I mean, I bereaved them. I thought it was quite believable. I just think that the action when it happens is great. There's a lot of. I don't know about you. I watched this in 2 sittings. I found it long, but it's an epic family blockbuster. So it got away with it on its opening. You can get that.
Yeah, I don't remember it being that long, but yeah, you're right. It's something like 2 hours 20, 25. And I watched it in 2 sittings as well, because I was just like, it's really late, and I know it's got half an hour to go, but I just can't do it.
You're waiting for everything to happen, and I think they obviously had this nerves, and they built up all of this anticipation.
Well, I mean, you've got quite a big setup. So you've got the bit in Jerusalem, or should I say, Jabba's palace.
It is the same set, isn't it?
It is pretty much the same set. Then you've got him traveling to Nottingham. You've got him. It's Ruddy Brian Blessed. I completely forgot he was in this film.
Did you notice that when he charges out to the devil worshippers, he shouts something which sounds a bit like Hawkman Dive
or Gordon's Alive?
It does. Gordon Dive. Oh my God! He only has 2 lines that he's able to say.
So you've got all that. You've got quite a big build-up before, the story gets going. So, I mean, that must be a good sort of half hour before he pisses off the sheriff's men and becomes, a wanted man. And then, because that's it. It's a funny, I was thinking about this, that it's an origin film, but it gets through it quite quickly. Whereas I was thinking about, and I don't know if it's probably too early to be talking about it, but the other more modern Robin Hood, Russell, which is the whole film is essentially an origin tale, and he doesn't properly become Robin Hood in the woods until the very end. Whereas this is a very self-contained film, because back then they were. It is a long film, but there's a lot going on. Some of the plot doesn't really make sense. It's sort of like not really entirely sure of what the sheriff's plan is, but that doesn't really matter. Who's he bribing? And it's to keep King Richard away, and it's all a power struggle. That's all you need to know, but it's a bit muddy, the plot.
That's what I was talking about running time. There's two things happening. There's Robin is hijacking and intercepting his mail and intercepting his payments. That's one thing. And that's a reveal.
And that's fun.
That's fun. And that's some good set pieces, some nice little bits of fun and jokes and what have you. Then there's the other side of that, is what you don't realize is that he's intercepting money because he's being bribed. And then there's this bit, did you forget about the whole devil worshipping thing? I hadn't forgotten about the witch, but I had forgotten about the whole devil worshipping.
I remember being some squeamish bits when I was younger, and I met with the witch. The witch is still brilliant. She's one of the villains are brilliant in this. You've got obviously the witch, the painted man. He hugs my ribs. She's brilliant. You've got Michael Wincott, cousin Guy of Gisborne, who we've talked about previously. I will talk about him in a moment. Yeah. Not Michael Winslow, who I previously said in a podcast. He's the Motormouth Jones from Police Academy. Very different person. You've got Alan Rickman hamming it up to the max. You've got all the villains. You've got all the merry men. You've got Maid Marian. You've got Will Scarlet. And I think, some people get sidelined. Is it Nazim? Azim, Freeman's character. And I think some people do get sidelined. I remember this at the time. Little John doesn't really get much of a look in, does he? He gets sidelined by Azim.
Well, just to talk about that for a second. What's interesting is the arcs, because all of the characters have these arcs, and some of them are feel like they've been wedged in, and others not. And it's sort of like there is the Little John arc. It's sort of like, yeah, they're my merry men. Oh no, they're your merry men because you beat me in a fight. And it's like, I've got tons of kids. I keep on getting my wife pregnant. There's Wolf. He's one of my kids. John. Your kids. Got your kids, John. There's that, and that's his kind of arc. He goes from being sidekick to just kind of being, his kids are the people in distress sort of thing. And then it's the same with Marion. She starts off being this hot-headed kick-ass feminist with a sword to damsel. Save me. Because she can wail. Girl can wail. And yeah, it's, I didn't, and then Christian Slater's arc is kind of like, I hate you. I love you, man. Yeah. Save me. Friar Tuck, the guy from Whose Lines Is It Anyway, I want to say Michael or Mike, double M, forgetting his name. I forget his name as well, but I was trying to remember what he was from, and that's it's Whose Lines Is It Anyway. I want to say it's not Michael Myers or Michael Madsen or it'll come to me, but he has an arc. His arc is that I hate the painted mall, and we're not going to get on. And then they reconcile, and it's like so there's all these little things going on, and Kevin Costner's on his own sort of path, sort of thing. And I don't think I don't know. It's weird.
I have my revenge.
Yeah, but all I like to say about this film is why I'm talking about all of these little arcs is I feel like it's not very cohesive. I feel like everyone's
having... You could strip it down. No, I just feel like everyone's having their own little story. Like Morgan Freeman's got his own little story going on, and it intercedes with Friar Tuck and Robin Hood a little bit. Same with Christian Slater's characters. Do you know what I mean? Then you've got one of my favorite bad guys in this is what did you say his name was? He's from 24. He's in Michael Wincott.
I think
Guy of Gisborne.
is one at him. He got a completely different script to Alan Rickman. And I love him. I think he is like scary. He's a brilliant
I can't wait
villain.
for us to do, because obviously he's the bad guy in The Crow as well.
Yeah, exactly. No, but he is one of the best bad guys in film, and just so scary. And when he turns up in 24 as a good guy, it's like he turns into, I'm not spoiling anything, he turns a bit bad at some point.
Really? You're not spoiling anything.
Not spoiling anything.
He was a double agent, or I did not see that coming.
But anyway, he turns up in 24 as a bad guy. So as a good guy. It doesn't matter. No, he does an amazing performance in this film. And then you've got Alan Rickman, who is in a completely different film. He is amazing. He lights up his film. But I get the feeling that we're all watching a film and Alan Rickman's in a panto on the other side of the film. And like he's going out to a live audience and he keeps coming back and getting right in the camera's face. It's like another film.
Well, it's fairly well known that Alan Rickman said the script was awful and he took it away and he got Ruby Wax, who's one of his best mates, and another guy, a playwright, Peter Barnes, to rewrite most of his lines. And Kevin Reynolds said that's fine. He was just like, he didn't tell the producers or the screenwriters. He was just like, yeah, just go for it. And Rickman said he knew it was having an effect when, but like during takes, the crew members were like trying to like stop themselves from pissing themselves. And like, that's it. He absolutely steals the show in this film. And I may as well go into it now. There is an even longer cut of this film. And there's a very interesting, a lot of reference I used for my production. There was an Entertainment Weekly article on the film when it came out, and it was always it was talking about like behind the scenes troubles and, you know, filming in England with terrible weather and the fact the film was re-edited late in the day. Kevin Reynolds was locked out of the editing suite apparently because the rumor was
by Kevin Costner.
Yeah, apparently Kevin Costner. Well, no, the rumor was that Kevin Costner was upset that Alan Rickman was stealing the film from him. And in the test screenings, like when everyone was asked who's your favorite character, everyone said the Sheriff of Nottingham. But what they actually edited out, and there's a good article on the Film Stories website and a good podcast on Film Stories, where a lot of the stuff they cut out is actually more dark stuff. There's a lot more stuff about the devil worshipping, and as you say, like, as it stands, it's pretty odd in a family film, and kind of is like, but it goes even like deeper. So it hints in the version that we all know that the witch might be the Sheriff of Nottingham's mother. And
they make it clear. They make in the version I watched. Then they make it very clear.
Oh, okay. Maybe you did watch the longer, darker cut, but it's implicit that she like swapped babies or something, and it was always her son, and she's spying on him from afar and stuff like that. Yeah,
that was all in what I saw.
Oh, so you saw the dark.
I watched the extended cut. Maybe that's why I was saying that I didn't remember all of this devil's worshipping stuff.
Yeah, no. So there are like extra devil worshipping scenes in this longer cut. So I just watched the normal version, which was still, like I say, 2 hours 20.
You're only talking about a couple of minutes. He has a meeting with all of the guys that he's been bribing, and they're all wearing hoods, and he gives them a small amount of money. I don't know if that's in the version.
No, it's not.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's about 10 extra minutes. So yeah, it wasn't taking away Alan Rickman's funny stuff. It was just taking away.
It was adding more to his backstory.
Yeah, it was adding more to his backstory essentially. But who's the better villain? Is it Hans Gruber or the Sheriff of Nottingham? I mean, they're both. He is fantastic as villains. I mean, obviously Hans Gruber is more of an original creation, and this is more panto. But it's just he's so much fun to watch, and it's probably you can tell in his career choices afterwards, he's trying to shy away from the less showy, less obvious roles, isn't he?
Well, what I get from this is Rickman off the leash, you know? It's like, this is
having fun. It's sort of like, well, fuck it, I'll take the paycheck. I may as well have a ball doing it.
But no, also, it's like, I've got to be the bad guy. It's like, I am the bad guy. And he probably, I think credit to him, if he was saying that the script was bad beforehand, obviously what happened was like, well, I'm just a totally boring villain. I'm just the guy. So I'm gonna spice it up. I'm gonna go nuts. And this was very thespian, but like he can make a face. And I think what you see in Die Hard is you see a totally different side to him. But it's more in his delivery.
And he has got he's got good dialogue to work with in that as well, hasn't he?
Well, he's got more. I think he's got more monologues, and it's more about the camera. The camera's on him, and he's got to be seen as cool and suave. And in Die Hard, he doesn't have a gun. Everyone else has got a gun. He doesn't need it. Words are his weapons, and he's seen as smart. Whereas, in this is like, I just love how off the hook he is, how unhinged he is. Even pushing aside all the one-liners, all of the jokes, just how physical he is. I forgot how physical he is. He's everywhere he goes. He's knocking into people and he's pushing them out the way, and he's all over the place.
And even that, it's that fight at the end where it's a great fight. They're throwing stuff at each other. They're like chucking
very
tables.
Enclosed space. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's a lot of fun, that fight. I mean, the one thing that I did notice in this film that I'd kind of forgotten, that it's not really a very good family film. There's a lot of casual death and killings. There's a lot of like arrows to the head.
Oh, my hand. Just going to blow you up. Oh, it's a rape scene. It's just going to spread open, just going to spread her legs.
There's a too much comedy rape scene for a family film. Like any at all is too much.
Yeah.
But you've got like Robin Hood, with that opening scene with at Sycamore Gap on Hadrian's Wall, where he takes out Guy of Gisborne's men. He's just like firing crossbows into people's heads. I'm like, and the throwing people off walls. There's a lot, as I say, for a family film, a lot of casual death.
I was very aroused. It was just, they threw everything at this. It was like, are we grainy? Are we glitzy? Are we like pretty? Are we ugly? Are we,
But at the same time, like you mentioned it in the opening, like it did remind me of the Holy Grail at times, because maybe it's filmed on location in the UK, so everything's grey, everything's grimy, and everyone's in the old like in the chamber. Was like the guard. And the guards and stuff. The sort of he's getting closer. Dun, 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 dun.
That's all I could think of. All I could think of was the Holy Grail. I was watching this. I was like, and elements of this look better in the Holy Grail because it was brighter, whereas it was grainier in this. It's like, this is it trying to be serious, whereas in the Holy Grail it's like, this is what a BBC
bring out your dad
historic drama looks like. No, we're picking apart it, but I say that there's a lot to like in this. There's some great action, some great arrow porn I've put in my notes. Like, you've got the point of view of the, following the arrow, which is very 90s, but you've got CGI, baby, CGI.
But you've also got the hero shot of, him firing the arrow with the, explosion background in slow-mo, the trailer shot. So there is some really good cinematography in this. There's good arrow porn. Some great lines. Most of them are from Alan Rickman, but there's so many that I just I say unintentionally funny, but they knew what they're doing. Like stuff that I remember us saying all to each other, like amongst our friends. So whether it's the Feeneys and the Glendinings, but like, God bless you, Fanny, and God bless Robin Hood.
and God bless you, Fanny.
I'm just going to start saying that to my wife. God bless you, Fanny. God bless Robin Hood. But also, all is well. It's Duncan.
Your Excellency, Master. Yeah, he's got a lovely arc. I say another character who has a beginning, a middle, and end. So the writing, I think I don't know. This film felt baggy, but not because of its dedication to developing its character arcs. The only thing I think this film lacked, looking back from 2021, is probably enough to keep the audience, like today's audience, interested. Not enough action, not enough threat. It all comes at the end.
No, I think there's. I would slightly disagree. I think there's enough action in this, but the thing that surprised me most, and I touched on before, that it's so self-contained. There's no sort of like, in today's cinema or TV, it was like, oh no, we'll leave that for a sequel. When does he get the, like a bit like the Russell Crowe one? Oh, when does he get, the merry men and everyone together? And when does he do that?
Does he find his bow?
And he even says, he even says at the end, it says the end. It's like, that's it. There's no more. There's not going to be a Robin Hood 2, because back then a lot of films weren't built to be a franchise, or like, let's make one good film.
Arguably, we live in a world of shared universes and franchises now.
Or at minimum, it has to be a trilogy, doesn't it?
Whereas this was back in the day when sequels were seen as being derogatory. They were looked down on. It was like, they weren't seen as moneymakers. They were just seen as a cash-in. Whereas now, everyone's like, no, okay. Yeah, it's not a cash-in. It's about telling a story. So I don't know. What else would you like to discuss on this before we get to one of the best cameos in the world ever?
Well, I was going to say, speaking of dodgy accents, before we get to that, so apparently it's fairly well known that Kevin Costner. I say we've talked about him being Kevin Costner and him being a bit ill-fitting for the role, even if he was the biggest star at the time. But apparently he was determined to do it with an English accent. He hired an accent coach and everything.
What?
And Kevin Reynolds said, no, that's just going to distract people. People are used to seeing you as a star.
Right. So it was directorial.
Yeah, but I've read reviews where people say, there are scenes where he talks in an English accent, and I mean, he maybe softens his American accent, but I wouldn't say it's overly, like, it's not as all over the place as Russell Crowe's accent in his Robin Hood.
I haven't seen that, by the way.
Have you not?
No,
wow.
No. Isn't it? But I thought it was just boring. People told me it was just boring.
It is. I mean, it was hyped.
Gladiator.
Yeah, it's a reunion of Gladiator. It's Ridley Scott, it's Russell Crowe, and it's just really dull. His accent's all over the place. And I say it plods along. It's just really forgettable.
I'll definitely check it out. Thanks for the recommendation.
We haven't even touched on, they made a few years ago, like a really random reboot of Robin Hood with Taron Egerton. And it made it like look all like, what's the way? Like, it made it basically like Robin Hood, but they tried to make it all modern. So it had like proper sort of wire work and slow-mo and hoodies. And
was this Guy Ritchie?
No, it's a bit like the Guy Ritchie Camelot thing. It trying to make it look a bit like Call of Duty, but with bow and arrows, but set in medieval times. Ben Mendelsohn as the Sheriff of Nottingham. And it's supposed to be terrible. I think it's still on Netflix, but I just can't. It's one of those films that, even out of morbid curiosity, I can't be asked to dedicate, an hour and a half, 2 hours to.
Well, to be fair to Costner, in terms of his accent, there's one time and you're going to think I'm giving him nothing, but he says hello. There's one time where he's definitely been practicing his hello. He doesn't say hi at all. I think somebody's had a word to him and said, oldie English, nobody ever said hi. It's always got to be. So he's definitely, hello, Marion. So he does there's a few times that, he's trying to do English there. But it annoyed me by the end of the film because Marion, whatever her name is, I'm sorry, she's got a double barrel.
Mary Elizabeth Manstrantino, I think it is.
God, it's so easy. Just rolls off the tongue. Anyway, Mary, we'll call her. Marion, even.
Is it? Your sister, Mary.
Mary. No, but she's trying. And you've got Friar Tuck. He's doing good. You got Morgan Freeman's obviously doing, my painted more friend. He's doing a completely different accent. But they're all doing so well. And Christian Slater, not the best.
Christian Slater is also doing American. Who would have thought? Plot twist. We are brothers. Who would have thought the other American?
That's what's really funny. It's like they both got mullets and they both got American accents. Of course, you were bloody brothers. No, but to be fair, he is acting, and Morgan Freeman is acting, and there's times where Kevin Costner is acting, but it's like I keep going back to this. George, have we got some coulda woulda shoulda? We haven't, have we?
We have.
I've got
a lot. But we can't finish our film review without one cameo.
Like you just see, I don't know if you agree with this, but like when that scene starts happening, everyone has got their tails up, including the audience who've watched it before, because we all know who's about to turn up. And it's not only, relief, the king is back. King Richard lives, but it's fucking the only person who should be playing King Richard ever. It's Sean Connery.
Yeah. Who also, it's one of his sort of middling sort of wilderness years picture. So he did. Connery did play Robin Hood in Robin and Marion with Audrey Hepburn, playing Robin Hood in his later years, which I've only seen bits of. I need to revisit. So it is. It is a bit
more fun than this.
I don't know if fun's the right word.
Sexy fun.
I think it's obviously a knowing wink, but out of all the like sort of big unnecessary film cameos, well, I'm not saying unnecessary. It's a great cameo, isn't it?
Well, it's just the fact everyone's just like looking at him and just go, it's Sean Connery.
It's a nice Untouchables reunion as well.
Yeah, it sounds what I was going to ask. It is very much a reunion. Imagine now we need to go back to work.
Well, I'm wondering, was it, it would be great to, I couldn't find anything on it, but it'd be interesting to know if it was, Costner calling in a favor. Sean, there's a golf course nearby.
There's lots of golf courses near.
No, I think he got $250,000 for 2 days work. I mean, I'm amazed that took 2 days.
I love him. Just love him.
But bless him. Hats off to him. Rest in peace. He did donate it to charity.
My God, that's very generous. Very generous.
And probably got through in a set of golf clubs as well.
James Bond will return in this podcast at some stage, I fear. But should we do Coulda Woulda Shoulda then? Yeah.
Let's move on to Coulda Woulda Shoulda.
Your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should.
Coulda Woulda Shoulda is where George enlightens me on other actors or directors or whatever, people that were considered for the movie that would have changed things. And as I've said, as much as Kevin Costner is an amazing actor and made this film possible, I would be very interested to imagine which other actors of the time could have been considered for this role.
So I haven't got actually a lot for the actor of Robin, because it did seem like, because Kevin Costner was so shit hot, they were just like, just get Kevin Costner. But let's start with Sean Connery, because Sean Connery was actually first offered the role of Lord Loxley, which was obviously taken by Blessed. And Connery turned it down because he felt he'd played too many father figures in recent years. So that kind of makes sense. And he probably just didn't want to die again. He's like, I've died lots of times recently. So, but apparently, I mean, some of these, again, it's, a lot of them are from the IMDb trivia. So who knows if it's true, but apparently on breakfast television, Mel Gibson revealed saying he was offered the role of Robin, but he'd just done Hamlet, which was a period film, and so he passed on it. Apparently, it
was almost as long as Kenneth Branagh's Hamlet.
So long it made Kate Winslet weep. So yeah, I think Mel Gibson is a good choice. Again, it's he's an Australian / American, because I think I think Mel Gibson is actually, whilst he was born in Australia, I think he is technically American, or I don't know. It's something weird like that.
But I would have been the other. Who are the? So I mean, that's who was actually considered, but who could have been considered? Because
but interestingly,
at that sort of time.
No, but interestingly, Cary Elwes was offered the role. And he turned it down because he thought the plot was too contrived. However, he would go on, obviously, to play Robin Hood in Robin Hood Men of Tights 2 years later. So Cary Elwes would have been fairly hot off the back of Princess Bride.
Mm-hmm.
And very dashing Errol Flynn, isn't it?
I'm thinking he is the Errol Flynn type character.
Yeah.
I don't know who else you could, because what was that film?
Alec Baldwin.
No, obviously Alec Bowen. The other actors I'm trying to think who was hot shit around this sort of time, and didn't they made a film with all the shiny armor? I didn't even see it. It was just for the girls. It was Richard Gere. Was with
First Night?
Yeah, so I haven't even watched that because it just like dross. I think it has got Sean in it though, hasn't it? Isn't it?
Yes, he's King Arthur.
Oh yeah, so maybe you have to go back and watch all of Sean's films eventually. But I would have said, yeah, maybe Richard Gere. But what about? Could you persuade me? Could Patrick? Well, if you're focusing purely on mullets, so that's where I'm coming from, bro.
You've got Patrick Persuade Me. You've got Kurt Russell,
The Russell. Oh,
hey, now we're talking.
Hey. Let's just stop there. Kurt Russell.
Nottingham. It's all in the reflexes. I mean, I'm struggling to think of any big British actors around that time. I mean,
what about
I suppose Daniel Day-Lewis, Pierce Brosnan. We'll get to him. It's not over yet. I'm not finished with my Coulda Woulda Shoulda. So
Daniel Day-Lewis, yeah, it would have been a good shot.
Daniel Day-Lewis.
I'm reaching. Timothy Dalton.
Put Dalton in it. He's
thespian, very thespian.
Very Errol Flynn-esque.
And also very believable on the action side.
What about Roger Moore? I may be in my early 60s, but I can still swing a sword. Well, my stuntman can swing a sword.
Yeah, the Marion actress, she's far too old. Get me a 20-something. How am I going to climb up that treehouse? No, that is.
No, that's, surely, Cubby, we can get a stuntman for this, surely.
And then have Christopher Walken as the sheriff of Nottingham. Shut up! You're just making A View to a Kill again. Okay.
Cancel Christmas.
Okay.
So speaking of Sheriff of Nottingham, apparently he feels like a who's who of mainly English bad guys. So apparently a lot of sirs. So Sir Michael Gambon, right. Sir John Hurt, Sir Ian
Ben Kingsley?
No, he's not on the list, but Ian McKellen, Oliver Reed, Patrick Stewart. So they were all considered for Nottingham. But apparently the silky-voiced Sam Neill turned down the role of Sheriff of Nottingham.
Wow. He would have been good. He could
and apparently Robin Wright, again from Princess Bride, she was cast as Marion. She announced she was pregnant with Sean Penn's child. So Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio was already working in London at the time. So she was basically cast 4 days before filming started, I think. So she was very late in the day casting.
Okay.
But should we talk about the making of, with me, Pierce Brosnan?
So if you're unaware, there is a special that is on one of the DVDs. Not a lot of these specials make it over to...
I watched it on YouTube. It's the full hour is 45 minutes is on YouTube.
George, so this is a featurette, basically trying to raise awareness of the film, get people excited before you've seen the film. And it was introduced by none other than Pierce Brosnan. So George, what is this featurette called?
So it is called Robin Hood, the Man, the Myth, the Legend.
And has Pierce Brosnan been taking drugs before? No, he is just really, really going for it, isn't he?
It's a pre-fame Pierce Brosnan. So he's obviously doing Remington Steele at the time. You know, this is 1991, so it's obviously he's probably still sore after
4 years prior to Goldeneye.
Yes, and a few years after losing out on Living Daylights because his Remington Steele contract was renewed. But he is going full-on Partridge. He's wearing this leather jacket. He's got these big reading glasses on. And
I want to say that Partridge took the jacket from that. I mean, it's too close.
I would love to get Steve Coogan's thoughts on this, because there's so many Partridgeisms in it. He's got the big baggy leather jacket. It's the delivery. It's the way he talks really, really loud, and then he whispers.
For all you Partridge fans, check it out.
You may know him as Robin of Locksley, Sir Robin Hood, but tonight, with me, Pierce Brosnan.
Yeah, well, I'm not. I don't even need to drop in a clip. That's just taking me back.
It's amazing. We'll share it on the blog. We'll probably drop it in at the end of this episode because all 45 minutes.
It's even just the first 30 seconds is enough to wet your whistle.
I mean, it's proper sort of low budget. They don't do it anymore. Like, obviously, in the age of YouTube, social media, we are just bombarded with clips and footage content of films. But this was back in the day, before the film came out. And I think he even talks about, it's like, and at the premiere tomorrow, a Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. And it's like, so it's obviously all been done to build up hype. And it was obviously shown on network television, the day before the film came out.
This is pre-internet. No,
that's how we got excited. There was Barry Norman, and that was where you got, snippets of films, the first glimpses you got, and there was stuff like Starlog magazine and things like that. These
days, they wouldn't have a host for that, because I can't remember what it was. I don't know if it was the end of Loki or something, or I caught it on Disney, but there was it cut to this like, it's just us all playing around behind the cameras. And they've got so much behind the scenes footage. They've got enough to do like a 10-minute montage of them all doing the same thing, everyone from Marvel. And it's sort of like, I don't think they would do would you get Pierce Brosnan back to do something on Loki?
I think he's available.
I think that's what the world is. He hasn't got the same energy these days, but can you imagine? It's like, who is the man behind
Nordic myth? Loki.
Just do it.
No, but like, that's it. You talked about Disney. I remember The Mandalorian. They did like a 6-part behind the scenes.
Oh yeah, no, but it's so well organized now. You wouldn't commission, because Pierce is obviously like, I can do this. I can do this. Let me do this. Whereas I think, it just shows how far we've come. And let's talk about that for a second, because this was very much a nostalgia trip for both of us. I apologize. Not sorry. I've been a bit hard on this film, but I was 11.
No. I mean, there was
12 on this one.
I haven't mentioned, there was a few weeks ago, there was a Guardian article that came out, because I say it's been 30 years since the film came out. And The Guardian is the second time they've done this very clickbaity article. They did it a few weeks earlier with Shrek, saying how it's aged really badly, it's a really unfunny film, and it's paved the way for lots of awful films afterwards. And it took this, and a lot of people was backlash saying, no, Shrek's still a lot of fun, and it was a huge hit, and it hasn't aged. Shut up! It hasn't aged. It was very refreshing at the time, and they did the same with Robin Hood, saying it was a joyless. I think they called it like a joyless romp. It's like, well, you can't have. It's either a romp or it's joyless.
Who romps without joy?
Exactly. You can't romp without joy. So a lot of people went after it and said, like, come on, it's a pure clickbait article. And the article is not that scathing, actually. It does pick apart a lot of the obvious things that we've talked about. The fact that it is quite a bloated film. It is overly dark in places. I think they talk about Kevin Costner being miscast and Alan Rickman doing Panto. But for me, I had a ball watching it. But I think a lot of it, that was down to just it. I haven't watched it in probably over 10 years. I think it's safe to say you and I, neither of us owned it on DVD, which is saying a lot, because you and I are completists and would buy pretty much everything.
Pass. But I had a lot of fun watching it, probably because it had been so long, but it was mainly for nostalgia reasons. And also, let's be fair to this film. If in a few years' time, it's a rainy Sunday and you want to watch a film with the kids, or let's say they're a bit older, let's say they are 11 or 12.
Ready for some comedy rape, kids?
Ready for some family rape. It's called marriage rape. Ever seen a rape at a wedding? Well, this one time in Prince of Thieves. No, it's a good general knowledge question. Other than that, I'm not even sure you could watch this at any point with your children. If you go back
Mummy, what's he doing? No, he's just dancing with her on the floor.
Yeah. No, I don't know. It worked back then. This film actually did it. Did it? Did it make money? Did it make a lot of money? I think.
Yeah, no, it was the second biggest hit behind T2. I think
Everything I Do For You. The Bryan Adams song video.
16 weeks at the number one, still going.
Love him.
Well, the song aside, I love the score to this. It's a proper rousing score. It's very memorable. It's by our friend Michael Kamen, who we usually take the piss out of because he's the man behind Die Hard, Lethal Weapon, Roadhouse, License to Kill. Very similar, very recognizable. But this is a proper orchestral score. And
epic. It's epic.
Epic. And it's one of the things that they talk about a lot on the Pierce Brosnan documentary. And Michael Kamen's like, you can tell his passion's coming through. He's like, I've always wanted to do a score like this. I've always been a Robin Hood fan. And it's a proper sweeping, soaring score. And it's even like the score was reused it became Morgan Creek, the production company's, their intro jingle.
Yeah, their logo music.
So yeah, no, I think that's another thing that's one of the big strengths is it's a cracking score.
Well, I think being fair, looking back at everything I said, we are splitting hairs here. It's like they had the cast.
Or arrows.
We're splitting arrows, feathers, but they had the cast, they had the soundtrack, they had the star, they invested the money in
the mullets
in the production. There was a very strictly enforced mullet rule for everyone apart from Morgan Freeman. No, I think it was. You can understand why this film was successful, and you can understand how much has changed since then.
But saying that, there's. Robin Hood is, one of those films that no one has the rights to, so they're going to keep churning them out. A bit like, there hasn't been, I say there's been two fairly big Robin Hoods.
We'll do another one soon. Hollywood.
Well, that's it. But, considering, in all honesty, I've never seen the Errol Flynn, or I haven't seen many other Robin Hood films.
Apart from the Disney one with the fox.
Apart from the Disney one with the fox, obviously, which I've watched again recently.
King Louis in that. Is it King Louis?
No, you've got. It does reuse a lot of
footage. Yeah,
a lot of footage from the Jungle Book. Yeah, you've got Baloo the bear as Little John.
Yeah.
Give it a few more years, and we'll probably get another one. But it'll be interesting to see. And there's been TV series. Obviously, in the 90s, there was The Maid Marian on British TV. That was quite big in the day. And there was a gritty Robin Hood in the noughties, I think, with BBC. So it's one of those things. He's always going to keep cropping up in popular culture. So, but for me, this is. I say it's probably the rose tinted, nostalgia goggles on. It's still fun to go back, but I'm not going to rush back for at least another 5 years or so.
It'll be a while. No, I mean, it is a legend. And I think I heard recently that they've gone back and they've studied text, and they say he appears like hundreds of years apart. And they're like, that a Robin Hood was actually, it was a term, it was a term that was applied to someone who was
This is all in the Pierce Brosnan documentary, Charlie. You sure you just weren't watching that?
Maybe I've just been watching that on repeat. That's what it is. Robin Hood. Anyway, just watch the Bronholm 40. You will not be disappointed. Is there anything else we need to cover on this film, bro?
Well, we haven't touched on suspicious spin-offs, but I don't think we need to because there's so many Robin Hoods out there.
I predict Ridley Scott will pick this up with
aliens.
Oh no, but let's put it out to the listeners. They're pretty active on the social channels. As it's been a while since we've had a Robin Hood film, what would you like to see?
Who would you like to see?
Have we just discovered the plot of the next Fast and Furious film?
We go back in time for some reason.
Go back in time to stop the sheriff from Nottingham.
I think it's never. I think Christian Bale would have been a good Robin Hood.
Yeah,
I'm just throwing it out there.
So many other. Yeah,
Michael Fassbender,
Clive Owen,
Dudley Moore.
No one's my friend. I'm Clive Owen.
Never going to be Bond.
No, nobody wants me to be Bond. I would have been a really good Bond. I'm Clive Owen. Okay, that was Kevin Reynolds, Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, 991. What have we got coming up, bro? What can we talk about? What do people have to look forward to?
Oh, we've got a few irons in the fire, but we'll have to stay tuned. We may be hopefully securing another guest in the future. So yeah, we'll have to see, but watch this space. And we might be doing some more modern stuff. Van Damme's got a new film on Netflix. I was thinking we could cover that. We
will definitely be covering Van Damme in all of Retro Ramble.
I think it's the Last Mercenary. That looks like it could be fun. So we'll probably do.
I think he's been given a bit of a blank check there. So I'd like to see what, because he's excited about it, because I follow him on Instagram and he sends me a lot of very personal videos when he's not doing the splits or selling merchandise. He's super psyched, and I think he's based on the trailer. I think they've said, look, we're gonna just do the JCVD thing. I get the feeling that he's been allowed to go a bit nuts. So,
well, everyone's on the buzz on Twitter. People are a few people have said, us included, hopefully this could be the comeback that he kind of deserves.
Deserves, absolutely,
yeah.
Absolutely.
So we'll cover that. There's obviously a few other things coming out. There's Top Gun 2 is coming out later in the year, so no doubt we'll get around to covering the original Top Gun.
Should we talk about Dr. Evil blasting into space in a rocket that's shaped like a penis?
It seems too obvious.
It's so I'm not having a midlife crisis. What's with the cowboy hat? I am not having a midlife crisis. Okay, so that's been us. That's been Retro Ramble. I've been Charlie McGee.
I've been George McGee.
And we'll see you cats next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
List and hearken, gentlemen, that be of free-born blood. I shall tell you of a good yeoman. His name was Robin Hood. Good evening, I'm Pierce Brosnan. He is a legend that goes by many names. The Earl of Huntington, Robin of Locksley, Robert Fitzooth, and Robert Hood. But to centuries of storytellers, he is simply Robin Hood. Who was this outlaw? Did he actually exist? Was he real or just a medieval myth carried on for 800 years? It is a question that scholars still debate today. And for the next hour, we will explore the myth of the hooded man. Was he fact or fiction? Tonight, we will find out.